Cerro Gordo, situated in a remote spot east of Owens Lake in Southern California's Inyo Mountains, stood as the state's most significant silver producer. While the specifics of its discovery remain unclear, it's believed that Mexican miners first uncovered silver ore around 1865. Unlike many other mining towns, Cerro Gordo didn't experience an immediate rush of prospectors following its initial silver finds. The surface ores at Cerro Gordo were exceptionally rich and less complicated than those found in other silver districts. Miners managed to extract large amounts of silver using nothing more than manual labor and simple adobe roasting ovens. For several months, small-scale mining continued, and despite the area's wealth of ore, it didn't initially attract widespread interest due to its remote location. The first trader to see the full potential of Cerro Gordo's mines was Victor Baudry, who established the town's first store in 1866. The turning point for Cerro Gordo came with the arrival of Mortimer Belshaw in April 1868. Drawing from his experience with silver mining in Mexico, Belshaw recognized that building a smelter would be the key to turning Cerro Gordo into a thriving mining center. Belshaw quickly secured a 1/3 interest in the Union Mine, the area's most productive mine, and extracted enough silver to transport a wagon load of bullion to San Francisco, aiming to impress potential investors. The display worked, and Belshaw left San Francisco as a part owner of the newly established Union Mining Company, armed with the necessary funds to construct a smelter for Cerro Gordo's ores. Connecting 8,500-foot Cerro Gordo atop Buena Vista Peak with the Owens Valley below was his first significant task. In July 1868, he oversaw the building of the town's first wagon road and operated it as a toll road. Over the next decade, many disputes arose over his control of this essential route to the thriving camp. Soon after completing the road, Belshaw finished building the smelter. When Cerro Gordo's silver shipments began arriving in Los Angeles by December 1868, the area had the necessary infrastructure in place, and the stage was set for a silver boom. By 1869, Cerro Gordo was being hailed as California's answer to Nevada's Comstock lode. The town saw a steady influx of miners, prospectors, and entrepreneurs. Over 340 tons of silver bullion were sent from Cerro Gordo to Los Angeles by year's end, and this commerce played a significant role in the city's early economic development. By 1871, Cerro Gordo was thriving, with a population exceeding 1,500, and new structures sprang up as quickly as materials arrived. That year also saw the construction of the American Hotel, which stood for nearly 150 years. An 1874 newspaper described the town as a cheerless, rocky, disagreeable burg, yet noted that it was filled with hard-working men, tearing fortunes out of the bowels of the earth. The town was well equipped with stores, barbershops, saloons, and hotels, catering to both people and animals, though prices were predictably high. During this time, Cerro Gordo had a reputation for being a dangerous and lawless area. Shootings and violence were common occurrences, often fueled by alcohol from the numerous saloons or rivalries sparked at the local brothels. An article from the Los Angeles Times on May 7, 1875, recounted a stagecoach robbery near Cerro Gordo. About 3 miles from town, at a spot known as the Yellow Grade, 4 armed men suddenly appeared, pointing shotguns at the driver and halting the stage. Meanwhile, 6 other men unhitched the horses and restrained the passengers. The driver was ordered to step aside and sit on a nearby rock, kept in check by one of the robbers holding a shotgun. The robbers then proceeded to search the passengers, taking everything they had. They also seized the U.S. mail and a box belonging to Wells, Fargo and Company, loaded it onto one of the horses, and made their escape. In 1872, the steamboat Molly Stevens began operations, transporting goods from Swansea at the northern end of Owens Lake to Cartago at the southern end. This new route eliminated over 40 miles of challenging wagon road to Los Angeles. The district thrived for several years, but Cerro Gordo's remote location posed challenges. The town faced shortages of vital resources such as wood for smelter fuel and water, along with difficult freight routes needed to deliver bullion to markets. As a result, its prosperity depended on a delicate balance of various enterprises working together. By 1873, Disruptions in the freighting routes to Los Angeles resulted in a massive backlog of silver bullion at shipping centers in Owens Valley, leading to the temporary closure of local smelters. The Inyo Mountains had been stripped of their sparse juniper and pinyon trees, necessitating the import of wood from distant sawmills to keep the smelters running. By 1875, Cerro Gordo's water supply had been depleted, forcing the town to rely on pack trains to haul in water constantly. The structures at Union Mine were destroyed by fire in 1877. Although repairs were made, the mine was left in debt. This accident, along with diminishing mineral output, signaled the collapse of significant mining activities by 1879, and Cerro Gordo basically became a ghost town. In early 1880, efforts to revive the Cerro Gordo mines were initiated. Along the Owens Lake coast, the town of Keeler was founded, and a mill was constructed to process some of the lower-grade ores. The Molly Stevens, which had been out of service for several years, underwent an expensive refurbishment, but tragically caught fire and was completely destroyed before it could be put back into operation. Keeler struggled to thrive until 1883, when the Carson and Colorado Railroad extended its line into town in July of that year. There were hopes that the arrival of the railroad would restore prosperity to the Cerro Gordo district, but those expectations never came to fruition. The mill in Keeler wasn't performing as anticipated, and the mines in the area were no longer producing the high-grade ores typical of the previous decade. By 1888, Cerro Gordo was largely deserted. State mineralogist W.A. Goodyear said on a visit in July of that year, "At this point, there are maybe 30 or 40 men around the site of the old town, getting their living as best they can." Several attempts were made to restart the Union Mine in the 1890s, but each effort was thwarted by depressed silver prices throughout the decade. Interest in reviving the Cerro Gordo mines resurfaced in 1906. A smelter was constructed in Keeler, and a steam tractor was employed to transport ore down the mountain. Even though this tractor halved the time needed to transport ore, it was still unable to provide the smelter with enough ore to turn a profit. A second smelter was constructed in 1907. In 1908, an aerial tramway was constructed between Cerro Gordo and the smelters in Keeler, enhancing the efficiency and volume of ore transportation. By the 1910s, the focus shifted to Cerro Gordo's zinc ores. A brand new tramway was built in 1915 to deliver zinc ore to Keeler. With renewed interest in zinc and the discovery of high-grade silver ore, the mines of Cerro Gordo finally began to operate profitably after decades of unsuccessful attempts to restart them. Cerro Gordo once again became a bustling mining town. In 1916, electricity was brought to the town and its surrounding mines. Although the town experienced a revival, it never came close to the tremendous production and wealth generated during the boom years of the 1870s. Just as the mines were starting to deplete, a new silver discovery was made in 1925. This finding was made by 1929, and for a limited period of time, Cerro Gordo was spared from becoming a ghost town. However, the mines of Cerro Gordo fell silent in 1933. Although there were several attempts to find new ore deposits in the Union Mine, none proved successful. Today, Cerro Gordo stands as a ghost town with a few part-time residents and a handful of preserved buildings. A section of the aerial tram that connected the town to the smelters in Keeler still remains, and an ore bucket can be seen suspended by cables hundreds of feet above the road leading to Cerro Gordo.